Greetings, salutations, hello, welcome to another Dreadlocks Q&A where you post questions and I attempt to answer them. However, I still consider the whole thing a great success if I just don't get stung by any bees. First question is from Lyndon Watkinson, and Lyndon asks, question, is it possible that I could get a nicely scented tea bag to put in the sea salt spray as it contains no lubricants? Cheers. Okay, so this is an interesting question in that it's one that I've never been asked before, and two, it's a question that I don't actually know the answer to. So I know a lot of people use teas in various ways with their dreadlocks. Rosemary, a tea made from rosemary in particular, is often recommended for people who need their scalps soothing, people who have dandruff problems. However, I don't actually have any experience with mixing a tea up with my sea salt spray. Now, I wouldn't be scared to try it. I don't think there's much risk in putting tea in a sea salt spray and giving it a go. I just don't know how it will turn out. So I would say that it's something that I would feel fairly safe in trying out, but I couldn't guarantee the results. The only difference I think it would make is you may want to check the sort of shelf life you're getting from your sea salt spray. When I make up a sea salt spray, I'm generally fairly confident that it will last a long time. I don't really worry much about it, but if you start putting other ingredients in it, you might want to make sure you keep it in sort of a cool, dark place and not keep it for months and months on end, because it might not last quite as well as just sea salt spray by itself. Robert Ruiz asks, question, Lacy Dreads rocks. I have 4-month dreadlocks and I was wondering how to keep my tips blunted. Some stay, others get loose. With the crochet hook, I'm noticing split ends, so I stopped as soon as I could. Help! Unhappy face. Right, so here's the thing with keeping tips blunted. It's not so easy to do with young dreadlocks. Some people are going to have success with it, some people aren't. Some people get in this mindset when they are crocheting dreadlock tips. They get in this mindset where it's like, well, I just need to keep crocheting and crocheting and crocheting and eventually they will stay. And while that's true, it's generally not because you crocheted and crocheted and crocheted. It's because by the time you'd finished all this crocheting, the dreadlocks were slightly older and old enough to hold the tips, because tips are not going to stay held until the body of the dreadlock is strong enough for the tips to be crocheted into. When you are blunting tips, they need the loose hair at the tip needs something sort of solid to be knotted into, otherwise it's just going to keep coming loose and coming loose and coming loose. If there's nothing solid there, water is just going to bring it loose. So when you have young dreadlocks, some people can find that they're crocheting and crocheting for like weeks and weeks and it's still coming loose, whereas when you have mature dreadlocks, it's not uncommon to be able to crochet the tips once and they'll stay blunt for months, if not pretty much forever. So it's not really sort of a method thing. It's not like you're necessarily doing something wrong. It's just that the dreadlocks may not be yet strong enough to hold a blunted tip. You will maybe not have enough strength in the body of the dreadlock for the tips to be strong enough to hold up against when water runs through them. So just hold on out, don't worry too much about it. Young dreadlocks are going to be young dreadlocks, but they will get stronger and you'll be able to do more with them when they are stronger. Mello asks, so I really want to start off my dreadlocks soon, but my hair length is weird. My fringe and sides are about 7 to 8 inches and the back is about 4 to 5 inches. Is there any point waiting for my back to grow the extra inch? This is a fairly common question because most people don't go into dreadlocks with a completely even length of hair. I think it's rare for a person to have like a complete solid length of hair unless they have like a bowl haircut where every strand is exactly the same length. So it's normal to go into dreadlocks where the hairs are not all necessarily the same length. The reason you may want to wait until all the hair is a certain length is not because you want the hairs to be the same length, it's just that you kind of want all the hairs to be long enough to form dreadlocks from. If you have some hair that's long enough to form dreadlocks and some hair that is not, you may find that the hair that's long enough to form dreadlocks and does hold, whereas the hair that's shorter kind of comes loose. So you have these dreadlocks and then this sort of loose second hair style on top, which is not so desired. Or if you have long hair at the front, in your case we have a long fringe but short hair at the back, you may find that the dreadlocks at the front hold up but the dreadlocks at the back wash out. So you can start them shorter, but there is the increased risk of them washing out, so it's kind of just like a gamble that you have to take. Santana Arce. Santana Arce. Question. Well, I just started the neglect or freeform method to my hair a couple of days ago and I was wondering what would be a good time to wash it. Should I wait or is it okay to go ahead and wash it? There's no specific length of time that you should wait before starting neglect dreadlocks, pretty much because you start from nothing. So if you were waiting until something started to form, you could find that you're waiting months before you wash the hair. So when you're going complete neglect freeform from nothing, you can wash the hair pretty much as soon as you want, because basically when you start freeform, it's only a choice. You just sit down and go, okay, I'm not brushing my hair anymore. You don't have to wait a certain amount of time before you then wash the hair. You just have to get into the sort of mindset of free-forming dreadlocks. So you stop brushing, you stop conditioning, and you're gonna probably want to wash your hair with something that's dreadlock friendly or dreadlock appropriate, but there's no specific length of time that you should wait. You can just sort of get straight into it. Lexi Stigal. Question, my dreads were done yesterday. I'm a girl and my hair is thin. I don't have a lot of dreads and I feel like they are huge. Is it possible to make them thinner or will they thin out? I backcombed. Backcombed dreadlocks can start off pretty huge because you backcomb and the hair kind of puffs up and you end up with these big thick lumps. When you start to wash those, they will generally loosen up and thin out a bit, so I wouldn't expect that your big backcombed lumps to necessarily be representative of how thick the finished dreadlocks like a year down the line will be. However, you will have the same number of dreadlocks, so if you're unhappy with the thickness, that's not necessarily a big issue because they will change in thickness over the months and they may become closer to what you want. However, if you're unhappy with the number, then you're kind of stuck with that number, and it's kind of, if you're really unhappy with the number, it would be better to brush the dreadlocks out and restart them with smaller sections so you get a larger number. It's better to come to that decision early rather than wait, because if you wait like months down the line, the dreadlocks become a lot harder to brush out, to redo and resection, whereas when they're brand new, it's generally pretty easy to do. Some people get in this mindset where they're like, well, if it's too thick later on, I'll just split them. And that's not something I recommend if it's at all possible to avoid. So I would recommend, if you're really unhappy with the number, restart and get a number and layout that you're happy with before you start investing months and months of time. Okay, those were my questions for this week. If you like this video, found it helpful, useful, enjoyable, you can click the thumbs up so I know you liked it. If you'd like to leave a question to be put in the queue to be answered as a Q&A question, you can leave it down in the comment section below. Just write question at the start of your comment and it will join the queue. I'd like to thank you guys for watching. I hope to see you again next time. Farewell.